Hey everyone, I'm here. I'm just not on the camera. So we will get started in just a minute. I'm just gonna link, like I always do, to my personal page. So this is my hand, I'm waving. Hello everyone. We're just doing the camera a little bit differently tonight, so bear with me. So I will jump in front of the camera here in a second. Hey, Chris. Okay. Hey everyone, so I'm doing this a little bit differently tonight because I have really intense spotlights now in the studio, and when I try to talk to you, I gotta pause this. Oh my God. Sorry. I'm trying to post this to my personal page and it's not working out. But anyway, I am gonna get going here in a minute. I just wanted to try to do this. It's not working. So I'm not sure how many people are out here yet because I'm not looking at the forward-facing camera. I decided to use the main camera because I can talk to you and share with you this from here, and then I can lower it directly to the flatbed, which is where I'm going to be showing a lot of the work tonight versus it being on the wall. So that's going to work out, and when I get back over to the camera, I'll check and see if there's any comments or anything. But I just want to see if I can share this really quickly to my personal page, which it looks like I can. I'm hoping. And then we'll get started. So tonight we're going to talk a lot about the illustrations that I do, both for my comic books and the way I create a lot of the illustrations that end up being published in my coloring books, but then also for limited edition prints. And then this large coloring poster that I developed, which is called Provincetown Vista, and this is actually an archival print of my color version of it. But I'm going to show you how I created this whole drawing and why I was inspired to do it. So I'm quickly getting to this. Yes, it's working. And I'm just posting. Great. So anyway, welcome. Let me come back around here so I can see everyone. All right. So I'm just going to see if I can zoom in with this camera. Yep. So this print is, like I said, an archival print on canvas, and it's much larger than the way I drew it. But I want to show you how I got to this drawing and why I even had the idea of doing this kind of large scale drawing of the town. So I'm having some challenges here. So I want to share with you the inspiration for this drawing. And what happened is this was a couple years ago. I was taking a flight to I think off to New York City or somewhere in March, and flew over the town on Cape Air, which was really a cool thing. So this is a picture that I took from that flight, and you can see it's very similar to the actual view that I drew, but it inspired me to draw this kind of view of the whole town. Also, earlier that year or that fall, I was in Paris and bought a little coloring map of Paris. So I thought, oh, that'd be fun. I'll just do a little coloring map. So it ended up becoming a bit more of a geographically perspective map versus a flat, straight down map. But anyway, you can see over here, whoa, hold on. So you can see right here, this is where the breach happened that year. If you remember, the outer dune was kind of destroyed in a storm, and so the water started to come through. And so you'll actually see that in my drawing. So this was what inspired it all, but of course it was not enough for me to do this drawing. So I am going to now shift this camera down to my flatbed here. Hopefully this works. So I have to apologize. I didn't get a lot of time to prep how this all was going to work with the camera angles. And I just started to panic a little bit ago before we started this because I was like, oh God, I didn't really think it through. So I wanted to share with you this. This is the drawing. This is the original pencil drawing of this view. And the way I crafted this was not only using that photograph, but I had to do a lot of research. So you can see I Googled kind of aerial views of Provincetown, and I got all of these images, which helped me kind of craft out how I would make my view look. And there's just a ton on here, and we're not going to have to go through all of them. But then I even had to find some images of specific landmarks because I knew that they were important and I wanted to include them. So this was really a great overall view, and you can see it very much inspired my view. So it was great to be able to find all of this on the internet. And I'll show you a couple more. So yeah, then I actually, I did some Google searches and actually used, like you can see, this is map view from Google so that I could really see exactly how everything lays out. There's Whalers Wharf, the little blue dot. That's where I was sitting as I was drawing all of this. And so having all of that, then I decided what size I was going to print this at. And that was going to be 11 by 17. I'm sorry, not 11 by 17, 27 by 19, which is a standard poster size. So what I had to do, and you can see this here, is I had to cobble together a piece of paper that big because I typically don't draw this large. So I decided to kind of create my own piece of paper that was the right size, and I'm just making sure that this is lined up. I think this is not zoomed out all the way. Let me see here. It's kind of awkward. Anyway, so I will move this closer as I talk about specific parts. But so what I did then was I decided to plan this out, and I just had some rough kind of outline of the town and kind of little even initials indicating what was going to go where, if this was going to be the library or this was going to be the town hall, and then started to draw. And then as I drew, I realized that I needed more space for the west end. So you can see here on the east end that I had to end up cutting the view short because I ended up trying to put in so much along the harbor here before we get to the breakwater and to the Provincetown Inn. So I ended up taping on additional there. And you can see too, let me just zoom in a little bit here. Can you see the shadow here of my lighthouse that I erased? So you can see that as I had it originally drawn, the wood end was here, and then I ended up erasing it and moving it out here. So it was really kind of a process of a week's worth of drawing to actually just get this pencil portion of it finished. And I will show you just a quick little video that shows, let me see if this is all on frame here. Yep. That just shows kind of that interim state when it was still being drawn. So if you watch closely, you'll see some of the, because you can see I only have this front area done, and you can see some of the sketching in the back, and you can also see some initials that I wrote in for where different landmarks would be. I wish I would have taken more video while I was drawing it, but didn't. So anyway, once I get the pencil all done like this, then the next step is to ink it. And so what I do is I ink on this tracing paper, or it's kind of like a roll of vellum. And you can see that when you lay it down, you can actually see the drawing through it. So then I take these pens, which these are my favorite pens. So it's the Pilot Razor Point and Razor Point 2, and this little Tech Liner by Alvin. This one is actually archival, so that's good, but these I don't think are. They're water soluble. And then I love this Pentel sign pen. I use this for drop shadowing on all of my comics, all of my drawings, because I really love the way that having one heavy line on one side of everything starts to really add some dimension. And it's just something I learned as I was working with interior designers and architects over the years when I was in that business. So now that's what I use to do it, but let me show you the tracing. So I had that in big rolls laid out, and what happened is as you can tell, let me just zoom in a little bit so you can see, or maybe it's easier for me to bring this closer, but you can probably see how rough all of that is. Like there's not a lot of definition. It's just kind of sketched in. So then what I do when I do the inking is I really make a lot of decisions around what I am going to do for detail. So here is the overlay of the harbor, and you can see how it fits right over top of the drawing because that's how I did this. But if you zoom in, you can really see, and let me see if I can, I don't know why I have issues trying to make this zoom. I think it's because I've got these comments up. Oh, damn. This is kind of a cool thing to see, is the difference between, all right, so I'm gonna raise this up to the camera. Hopefully this is gonna work. But I want you to look closely at kind of the breakwater here and the pilings along Fisherman's Wharf, and even the detail of these boats, and just how there's not a lot of indication of windows or anything in these buildings. And then when you look closely at my ink, you can see that I actually made all those decisions while I was inking. So you can see now that there are pilings under the entire length of Fisherman's Pier. You can see all of the rocks in the breakwater that protects the harbor. And you can see all of the windows and detail in these buildings. So I did all of that while I was doing the inking. And so then these panels, the inked panels, and you can see that sometimes I use a little whiteout or whatever, these end up getting scanned. So here's the upper portion, as you can see. So it's really kind of cool that I still have all of these. And then that gets scanned, and then the entire drawing has to be assembled in Photoshop. Because so here is the drawing in Photoshop. So wow, why is that so? I'm just gonna raise this camera up slightly. Maybe it has shrunk down a little. So what you can see is that in Photoshop then had to line up all these little panels, and then I added in the title block and my signature and copyright, and then the brand of this, which is Color Me P-Town, because this is one of the coloring posters that I've done for Color Me P-Town. So then I get this printed. So that whole process of inking took another week, and then the process of actually cleaning up this Photoshop file was another week, because if you look closely at this, you can see there are all these detailed lines in some of these buildings, and when you're using ink, sometimes they kind of bleed together. So in Photoshop, I can actually go in and open those lines back up so you can get that clarity. So that's how that works. And then I ended up getting these printed then, and when I got them in, I decided to hand color one just to show a sample of how I would color it. And I ended up doing it the same way that I hand color all of my hand colored prints, which is what I call localized color, where I just color part of it, which is kind of cool because it brings focus to certain parts. And I'll show you that. But before I do want to point out that heavy pen that I used. You can just notice, like on this side of the town hall, that there's just a little bit of a heavier line. This side of the monument, and it's on that left side of everything. And I think that's what really helps provide that, that dimension. So I don't know what is going on. I think my camera is slowly sinking. So anyway, thank you for bearing with the craziness. I'm showing you now the hand-colored one. So the reason that I step away is because I have everything over here on a ledge. So this is the one I hand-colored, and it's the one that became the file for that large one that I started the live feed with. So what I did was I just colored the green and the blue, and left a lot of the white as all of the buildings and everything uncolored, which I think really adds a stark contrast and provides more definition to this piece. So then I had to have, so I spent about 40 hours coloring because there's a lot of layering of green. So if you look close, that's one of my kind of hallmarks of the way that I use these colored pencils when I do this rendering of my drawings. So there's a lot of layering involved. And so again, that took about another 40 hours or so just to do the coloring. And then I had to have this flatbed shot so that it could become the file for that large piece. So, and then that is the large piece, like I was saying. So, this is weird that I have to jump over here and you probably can't hear me as well, but so this piece is, I think, 28 by 40 something. It's really much larger. It's almost like if you took that poster and turned it twice, turned it to its side and have two of them on here, that's how big it is. And it's on canvas, and I'm only doing 50 of these, so this is a sample piece, that's number 14, and I think the next available is 17 or 18. So these are still going to be available until they're just not available anymore. And I don't really have it presented in my studio anymore because I have a lot more room for my original pieces. But this will always be available on my website, and it will just take a couple weeks to get once it's ordered. So that's available. And I wanted to show you, though, some of the other rough sketches that I have of some of my comics, which I think would be fun. So I'm not going to get into a lot of detail, but I'm going to put the camera back down to the flatbed so that I can just share with you some of the way I would conceptualize comics and then how they come to life between thumbnail to full size, and then it's the same inking process. So we'll do that. And I should look at comments. How's everyone doing? Oh, Tina, you're so sweet. Aaron, you are in an art studio. It's too funny. I used to work with Erin, and she's an amazing interior designer, and I was lucky to have her in my firm for, I don't know, a couple of years, I think. So if anyone needs any amazing interior design, Erin Conover Murray in Ohio. So this, I'm going to lower this just a little bit because these pieces are not as big that I'm going to be showing you. And let's see if this works. So, all right, I'm going to take this away. And I'm just grabbing some of these pages here. And I just kind of have them stacked up in the way that I want to present them. So, and I don't want you to read all of this, but I just want to show you that this is how I conceptualize some of my comics. And this is particularly one that was about gym and the way that people act in the gym. And you can see that right here, this says texter, because I wanted to talk about guys who just text at the gym and guys that just pose in the mirror, guys that are obsessed with taking selfies, and guys that are hogging all the dumbbells. So this was the very first gym shorts comic strip, and it became the content for this comic book. So that has happened with a lot of my comic strips. After I've done a series of comics, they've become a little mini comic book where you can see everything at a glance. So this was the concept, and then you can see that, I had a lot of different ideas about different types of people at the gym, and then these were the ones I sketched initially. And then this is how the drawing came out as the rough sketch. So you can see that I have all the thought bubbles and everything and dialogue indicated. I use a straight edge, and I do this at my drawing table, so everything's ruled and erased and redrawn. And then I layer that vellum over top, which you can see here, and create, and look, you can see lots of mistakes. I used some whiteout, and you can see what ended up being scanned is this. And then that becomes the actual comic. So this is from Jim Short's The Waiting Game, and that's how the piece turned out. So this one is, let me flip these this way. So this one is my comic series that was about cyclists on Commercial Street. And this was just, you can see I've gotten in here a type of bikes and all these different things. And then here there's an idea of like a bicyclist being squeezed by a car or a truck or something, someone texting while they're on their bike, and just lots of different ideas. And then I start to visualize them. And sometimes they work out, and sometimes they don't. You can see I've crossed through some of these. And then I start to flush out the idea a little bit more. And you can see, like, here's the squeeze, which I'd indicated on the other sheet. And here it is, like, really kind of more refined about what the idea would be. A cyclist passing between a truck and a car. And then you can actually see, as it came to life, then in the rough, here it is at full size, along with some of the other ideas that I had for this particular comic. And then I did the inking. So you can see how that all comes to life. And then it's this same vellum, and then I scan that, and it becomes the comic. So it's the same process. I won't have to talk about the process in each of the rest of these. I'll just show you them. So this is a fun comic book. It became The Cycle of Life, Observations of P-Town Peddlers. And so that's available on my website along with a lot of other these drawings. And I actually put the link in the description of this. But you can see how it turns into this great little book. So this is a very popular little strip that I drew that went viral years ago when I first drew it. This was the very first strip, so it was in December of 2015, but it was the truth about cuddling and why I have a 2-minute maximum limit. And so I thumbnailed it out the same way as the others, but here's the rough. I guess I don't need to bring that closer. You can see it. You can see that it's like a lot of roughness added out or worked through. And then I do the ink. Oh, looks like I sliced that. Then I do the ink, and then I do the print. And then this was posted to Facebook back then, and it just went viral. It was the first time I ever had a post that went viral, and so I, of course, followed up with multiple other additions, more truth about cuddling, further truth about cuddling, and the naked truth about cuddling. And anyway, it became also, of course, a book. And this is my #1 selling comic book, The Truth About Cuddling. And it's really just about why I have issues with it, which is probably why I'm single. Anyway, this is one that's called Grind on This. And it's basically what if gay men did or behaved in real life as they do on hookup apps, or do they already? And so I ink it, and you can see, and there's the print. So these two are a little more recent. This one's called Don't Beat Around the Bush. And for the most part, I always drew myself in these comics without facial hair, because when I studied initially with Alison Bechtel, she said I should always keep my character the same, and I did for years until I drew the book What's Weird About a Beard, and then I started to appear with a beard. So this is the ink, and then that's the print. And then I'll show you this one, which is actually me with a beard, which I am in all of my comics now. But this is called One Name Fits All. So here I am with the beard. And here's the ink, whoa, which looks crazy because it's on top of the print. And the print. So I think that's all I'm sharing with you tonight. And it looks like I'm going to say good night. So just coming to this side of the camera again. I'm hoping that this worked out. I didn't practice this, like I said, and I think that you might have a hard time hearing me when I'm this far away. But I wanted to thank you for joining me. I potentially will do another feed like this around my comics and my just comic books, because that's how strips became books. But then the last few books I drew as books, so that's a whole different process where I thumbnail out an entire book at once. And that might be interesting. And then I just wanted to remind everyone to join me in 2 weeks on September 4th for Cape Cod Color, which is all original paintings, all new pieces that I will be sharing. So that is September 4th, which was the previously scheduled. This one's kind of a little impromptu one. And that'll be at 7 p.m. as well. And also, I always like to mention ptowngalleryschool.com. There's a lot of great content on this, and every week you can see all new pieces from 30-some galleries here in Provincetown. We all put up fresh work every week, Fridays at 5, so it's ptowngalleryschool.com. And just if you were interested in what's going on here in Provincetown, this was Carnival Week, but Carnival didn't happen. There were a lot of people here, I was surprised, and there were a number of people in costumes, but with masks, so that was cool. But the Provincetown Business Guild has decided to do a virtual carnival celebration. That's tomorrow night. So you can go to ptown.org and get information about that, and you can join us in Provincetown tomorrow night for I think it's a 2 or 3 hour carnival extravaganza. So ptown.org for all the information. So that's it. James Frederick, I'm going to sign out. Thank you.